Hello and welcome to the James Granstrom podcast, where I help you tune and tap into your natural state of well-being. In this episode, I'm going to share with you how to allow greater abundance into your experience so you become a super abundant magnet. How often do you feel that there is a shortage of time or money or health or vitality or clarity in your life? Because if you're experiencing any shortage in your experience, then this episode is for you, because it is possible for you to go from having shortage or lack in your experience to having an abundance. So we've got to ask ourselves the question of what is abundance? Abundance simply means more than enough. It means plenty. It means overflow. And I feel like I can talk about this because I remember there was a time in my life where I was 15 grand in debt, and I managed to turn that around in a fairly short amount of time. And in having done so, I've managed to change my fortunes around by what I'm going to share with you in this experience. And I don't mean just going from debt to plenty. I'm talking about abundance, meaning clarity, meaning good ideas, meaning good timing, meaning radiant health, meaning good relationships, and a fulfilling career and fulfilling work. Because abundance is all of these things. It's just not financially related, it's related to a well-rounded life. And I want to share with you some of the principles that I've used to turn my fortunes around so that you can do that in your experience. Because even if there's just one thing in this episode that inspires you and you apply it, it will really turn your fortunes around. Because I can share with you the ideas, because I'm a messenger of this information, but it's really you that has to apply it. And it's only when you feel like you've had enough, you don't want to go down that route anymore, very much like I did. I was like, I've got to change. I've got to really be committed to serious transformation. And this is what I do with my clients. This is what I have done with myself. I make radical transformation possible. And if I can do it, you can do it. And if my clients can do it, then you can do it. And some of my clients are super high end, and I can't disclose all of their details, but I do want to share with you that everybody is dealing with different challenges at different levels. And no matter where you are in your journey, this episode will have something that will inspire you, I hope, or a process or something practical and grounded that you can take away and apply. And if you apply it, you might just get the results you've always wanted, because if you keep doing the same thing, you're going to get the same results. So what I want to do is start with a little understanding of energy, because really where I come from is an energetic standpoint. And if you can understand this simple principle that thoughts are energy and ideas are energy, and in order to turn that energy into matter, you've got to make it practical. You've got to bring it down to earth. So understand this principle. Shortage has to come from some type of idea that you've even been fed by your parents or fed by your environment, or you've been fed abundance. You've been fed more than enough. Now, it's all too easy to look at other people and go, oh, don't they have it good? But what you don't understand is what one of their ancestors did to make it worth their while. Because there's always a pattern breaker in the family that has to change the family dynamics. And you have to be that version in your family. You have to be the one that changes the fortunes around. Because if someone in your family has done well successfully and financially, for instance, then it's far easier for you to observe that and pick up the vibrations of that and for you to live it. But if that has not been the case in your experience, meaning you weren't necessarily surrounded by a prosperous upbringing, you weren't surrounded by people who were healthy, you weren't surrounded by people who had good relationships, and you observed that, and now you're living that out, you are living out the vibrations that you picked up from an early age, and you're living them out now. But if you've got to a point where you go, I am the creator of my experience, at some level I believe I'm influencing my life, then this episode is going to make a lot of sense. So I'm going to come from this premise. There is no shortage in the universe. If you look in the universe, it's always expanding. If you look into our bodies, it looks as though it's always expanding in a molecular level. But we as human beings have somehow bought in to the understanding that there is shortage in this world. And when we see shortage or we see not enough, then actually what we're doing is playing out that frequency that we're observing. So we always need to return back to nature again and look at nature to say, look how many leaves have fallen from that tree in autumn. You can't count all the leaves that have fallen from the tree. I remember once I went to a bunch of oak trees and I was like, I'm just never going to be able to count all those leaves. And I want you to be able to think that in terms of opportunity, financial flow, and all of these things that aren't finite, they're infinite. And it's only us as humans that see things as finite or shortage or lack. So we've got to shift from shortage to abundance. And I want to share with you some practical ways that I managed to do that, and so that you can do it too, because shortage is a vibration and abundance is a vibration, meaning shortage is a frequency that you think of through the filter of your mind, and abundance is a frequency that you see through the filter of your mind. So we need to shift that frequency by changing the filter of our mind so that we begin to observe differently from our mind's eye about what we're paying attention to on a day-to-day, moment-to-moment basis, that we're focusing more on abundance than we are on shortage. And as soon as you get to the point where you're 51% focused on abundance rather than shortage, boom, you're going to see the dynamics of your day-to-day life change. That's what happened to me, and it will happen to you if you can remain focused. And most of this world has very sloppy thinking. Most of this world cannot focus for longer than 12 seconds, according to Microsoft, but that was 20 years ago. Now, goldfish have an ability to focus for about 8 seconds, and we humans have about the same amount of ability to focus. So we need to focus in our day for longer periods of time on the things that we want and the things we want to draw into ourselves and the things that we're going right, so we can come from an abundant standpoint rather than a lack and shortage victim mentality. There are two ways. When you are wealthy and you're prosperous and you're abundant, you know at some level of your being that you've influenced it. And so if you're willing to wake up, you're willing to wake up to your own abundance, then I want to share with you some practical tools that I've used that have really worked for me. And I would only share things that have worked for me. And this is like a little dissemination or a distilled course just in a short podcast for you to be able to listen to. I feel that there is so much information, detail I could go into in this show, but I'm just going to keep it as quick and as relevant and as poignant so you have something practical to take away. Because I feel that when I was reading thousands of books and attending hundreds and hundreds of seminars and retreats, I wanted something practical to take away. So for you, my audience that I really care for and treasure, and thank you for supporting me, by the way, because this episode is the 4-year episode. So this episode is 4 years old, and I'm so grateful to you. So I just wanted to just put that in there. Thank you guys for listening. You really make this show, and it's such a joy to be able to serve you and give you tools, twice a month or bi-monthly, to be able to give you this show, because it gives me so much joy to share this content. And thank you so much for all of you that write in and leave reviews. You really make this. So if I want to get back to like the abundance, everyone wants more abundance. Everybody wants more money, but really what we really want is more freedom of choice. So if we can understand that we want more freedom of choice that the money offers, then we realize that freedom has to be an emotion. So how can we become more free? That is where I'm alluding to with this conversation. So we have to understand that money is energy, thoughts are energy, feelings produce emotions, which is energy in motion. So that means that too is an emotion, which is also a feeling. So the better you feel, the more emotion you have, which means the faster your energy is going. Now that could either be positive or negative. Now, when we're thinking positively and being excited or enthused or passionate about something, we've got faster energy, which means we've got faster attraction. But conversely, when we're feeling negative or feeling shortage, that can create a momentum of attraction of what we don't want, an attraction of less than or of shortage. So we want to be able to focus positively on what we want in a direction that lights us up. And when I just understood this simple principle, I realized that there are two different ways of thinking. There's either abundant thinking or there's lack thinking. So I really need to practice more abundant thinking than lack thinking, because in my environment growing up, I believe I picked up more thoughts of lack than abundance. Now, even though there was lots of things going right in my experience, there was this one undercurrent of thought that I always had growing up, which was there's not enough. And even though there seemed enough, even though I seemed to be in an environment of enough, there was never enough. And that also led me to think that if there's not enough, then I'm not enough. And then the negative spiral starts. So it was only when I interrupted that pattern, and that's what a generational pattern breaker will do in a family. They will interrupt that pattern. So if you're listening, you are the pattern breaker in your family, because that's what I am in my family. I'm the pattern breaker, and I'm happy to break those patterns of the past so that we can create a beautiful new legacy to leave behind. So before I started to understand abundant thinking and start to attract a lot more money and a lot more opportunity, what I did was start thinking differently. Now, even though I'd been doing affirmations for years, and I mean years, they didn't seem to work. So what I did was just simply changed my language and was super aware of what I was saying, because words really have the ability to influence matter and influence frequency. And I understood that at some level, but I hadn't seen it in my own experience. So I remember telling a friend once, never say you don't have enough. Always say you have enough. Because I remember once one of my friends was a DJ and he said, I really want to buy all this DJ equipment, but I can't afford it. And I said, don't say you can't afford it. And I remember about 2 years later, he came up to me and said, I am so thankful for that conversation we had, because I bought all that DJ equipment and now look, I'm here at this event and I'm spinning the decks. I'm making tunes. I'm loving life. And he said, that was because you told me not to say I don't have enough, just to say I had enough. And he goes, that changed my life. So you have to change your language big time. And you always have to say you have more than enough rather than you don't have enough. That is the number one thing you have to do. Always say you've got more than enough. And now you have to back it up over and over again. So when you go to a shop and you're spending money, even though you're spending money maybe from your card or you're actually paying cash, bless the person that you're paying, or bless the machine that you're paying, and bless the shop that you're paying, and saying, thank you that I have this money to pay for this, and that I'm giving people jobs as a result of me buying this apple, or as a result of me buying all these groceries, or a result of me buying this drink. Whatever it is, you have to condition yourself that you are giving your money to a place or an institution that's benefiting you in some kind of way, and you're creating jobs as a result. That makes you feel like a philanthropist. And philanthropists are renowned for being incredibly abundant because they're doing this on a much larger scale. So start off being a mini philanthropist by blessing your money wherever you spend it, and that it's giving you the opportunity to give other people's jobs. And you do that silently. That will make you feel abundant each time you're spending money, even if you're paying a bill. When you're paying a bill, maybe it's your phone bill or it's done by direct debit. Just look at that bill, even if it just comes on an email, and go, I'm so thankful and grateful that I'm giving somebody a job through me buying or having this service. That is so powerful. And when I started doing this, I started realizing I felt more and more abundant. If you want to attract more abundance into your experience, then you have to understand that it's really a feeling game. And the better you feel, remember that 51% of your day will start allowing you to see things differently. You have to realize that the feeling is what creates greater attraction. Now, I remember years ago, I had great success at attracting amazing things, and then it dropped off because I stopped feeling that way, because I started observing lack. And when I started observing lack, I started feeling lack. And then that became my experience for literally a few years. And it was only when I went back to the drawing board to go, well, how do I want to feel? And then when I kept that up, then I started seeing the outer environment start to show me more abundance again. Because remember, you have this thing in the back of your head called the reticular activating system that's showing you more of what you're focused on. So if you're focused on the bountiful, beautiful parts in nature, then you're going to see more abundance. If you're looking at all the beauty in the world, if you're looking at all the things that you have, the reticular activating system is going to show you more and more lavish abundance. But if you're only looking at what you don't have, if you're looking at all the bad things in the world, if you are looking through the eyes of the media, which only wants to show you chaos, war, upset, not enoughness. Now, I'm not saying that doesn't exist, but if you're focused upon that and you stay focused upon that, that's going to create a feeling, that's going to create an engine that makes you think more of shortage, lack, worry, disease, and concern. You need to become mindful of what you're consuming mentally, emotionally, and allows you to nourish your spirit and your mind so that you can think more in abundant terms. Because once you become abundant, you can't undo it unless you're thinking more thoughts of lack, worry, and concern again. So your language and your words play a key part. So number one, you got to remember, we say, I have lots, I have plenty, there is overflow, I've got sufficient. And then the other things is to remind yourself daily when you're getting dressed, are you wearing the clothes that that abundant version of yourself would wear? Because if you want to be abundant, you have to wear something that makes you feel abundant. Now, this sounds really silly, but you really does imprint your energy. So when you feel good about yourself, you feel more abundant. But when you feel negative about yourself, you feel less than abundant, you feel less than. So lots of people, without them realizing, are conditioning themselves for lack when they could set themselves up by putting their best foot forward, by wearing their best clothes regularly, by cooking a really nice meal, and whatever your environment is, try and eat it in the nicest environment that you can have. And if you're just by yourself and you want to attract a relationship, maybe put a candle there, put some flowers on the table, make it more beautiful for yourself so you feel more uplifted, because the feeling creates the attraction. And if you want to have more money in your life and you don't have a great deal in your experience, try having images in your home, like really nice magazines. They're affordable. I remember having magazines of boats in my home in the loo, and just looking at them whilst I was on the loo, and I was thinking one day I'd like to have this in my experience. And I was in the gym yesterday, and they had on the TV in the gym like the types of boats that I had in my magazines, and I'm going, golly, I'm literally in this environment around people of the same caliber now. Isn't this exciting? Isn't this fun? That once upon a time this was just a dream. It didn't seem a reality. And here I am a few years later, and I'm like, wow, I'm actually put myself in this environment now. Isn't that exciting? So pictures will really do it for you. You need to think beyond your current reality if you want to have a different reality or a different experience of abundance. You've got to change your thoughts, you've got to change your words, and you've got to change your deeds. When you get all of those three in alignment with regards to abundance, it's going to find you in the most unusual, simple, day-to-day ways. And saying things like, I appreciate this and I appreciate that and I appreciate this about you, helps you lift your abundant energy. Your words are one of the fastest things you can use to attract greater abundance into your life. And being thankful when you wake up, being thankful when you go to sleep, looking for all the good in your day-to-day life, that will keep you abundant. And saying often to yourself, wow, how blessed am I? Or how well did that work out? And how about that? And aren't I lucky? And aren't I blessed? And didn't that turn out well for me? This creates more and more abundant thinking. Now, a lot of people don't think that, but it really does. And each time you voice that in a situation or in an experience that something great happened to you, you perpetuate more of what you give your attention to. And so that just grows. And if you're only giving your attention to shortage, or I don't have enough here, and that didn't work out, and oh dear, and ain't it awful, what you're doing is perpetuating that wheel of motion. And you only want to give your attention to the wheel of motion of abundance. Remember, 51% is all you need. But as soon as you get more than 51%, you start to know, you start to see evidence. Then it becomes a lot easier for you to focus more on abundance. Now, one of the things I used to say when I didn't have a great deal, I used to say, when people would say, how are you? I'd say, the sun is shining and the sky is blue. I'm doing pretty good, thanks. Now, that was my sort of general way to say life's pretty good. No matter what's happening, life's pretty good. Now, I didn't need to be specific, but I remember saying this the other day, and I picked up the phone and I said that to somebody automatically without really thinking about it. And when I said that, they said, "Oh, hi, just to let you know, it's such and such from the insurance company, and you'd placed an offer with the insurance company a little while ago for a claim, and they're going to give you the full amount of insurance because we had a water leak back in March or whatever." And I remember thinking to myself, what a blessing. How about that? And I completely forgot about it. And that's the type of things that shows up. The universe shows up to you in ways that reflect your abundance when you feel abundant. When you can just look at some of the most simple things like the sun is shining and the sky is blue and I'm doing pretty good, thanks. That response alone has literally changed my fortunes in the last few days. But aside from that, it's changed my fortune over the last few years just because of that simple response. Your response to the way people ask you will change the dynamics of how much abundance you're going to allow in or you're not going to allow in. There's no one stopping you from abundance except for yourself. There's no one stopping you attracting abundance except yourself. And you have to realize that you're either allowing it or you're disallowing it with your thinking. That was what my experience was. I was like, wow, I've been keeping it away from me and now I'm allowing it in big time. There's more than enough. There's overflow in my experience. I feel more than enough. I feel more than good enough at what I'm doing. My clients are doing incredibly well. I'm doing really well in this area, in this area, in this area. And of course there's expansion and of course I want more. But I'm thoroughly enjoying how well this is going and how well this is unfolding. And I'm so excited about this. And when I'm watching my own thinking happening, I'm like, wow, doesn't this feel good? Don't I feel like I've got even more energy than I did before? And I'm being more productive than ever. But also I'm allowing myself wonderful rest at the same time. So I've got this wonderful balance. And if that's what has my thinking been from where I can remember a few years ago, quite a few years ago, I'm thinking, golly, what an absolute 180 turnaround. So keep being mindful of the thoughts that you think and the words that you say. They are free and they are shaping your reality at all time. And you've got to remember that balance is super important here. And one of the things that was just a simple rule, potentially, particularly with regards to money, was just spend less than you earn, so you're always in balance. I mean, that's a simple principle. But I remember when I was in debt and I suddenly started paying it off regularly, and I was spending less than I earned, and I was paying it off regularly, and I made it my mission to pay it off regularly. But I was in the back of my head, I had these affirmations saying, why do I always have so much money? Why am I so good with money? Why am I so abundant? Why did I pay this off so quickly? And why have I doubled my income? And I was saying all of these questions to myself, which was different from I have done this or I am this. It was like, why have I? My mind started to produce the solutions and gave me the ideas to actually do it. And when it came to it, I used the money left over that I paid from the debt to be able to start investing, because I was now saying, why am I investing wisely? Why do I invest my money wisely? Why am I financially secure for the rest of my life? Now, as soon as I started saying these things and writing them down 3 times a day, morning, noon, and night for like 3 minutes or so, I started to condition my mind to see things differently. And so my mind began to see things differently because I was now taking actions that were different, because my thoughts and then my words and my deeds, meaning my action, begin to change. And then I realized, wow, I've got more money in my account than ever. And so you start to become like, well, how did that happen? It all happened gradually because of the changing of my thinking. So if you change your thinking and you change your words and you change your deeds, you're going to get different results. If you want to really tap into your abundance, then activating the law of giving is going to be absolutely crucial for you. So you've got to ask yourself this question: what can I give? Where can I add value today to other people's lives to support them in some kind of way with my gifts, talents, and abilities? And find a way to go and do that every single day. Ask that question: where can I give of myself today? Where can I give of myself abundantly? And you'll notice that if you can do that from an open heart, meaning you genuinely want to support someone in some kind of way, maybe it's with a bit of time, maybe it's a kind word, maybe it's listening to somebody, the universe will support you in the most mysterious of ways. And I found that when I've come from that position of actually genuinely wanting to uplift other people, for instance, with this podcast, for instance, with looking after my family and genuinely wanting to do that, willing to let everything go, willing to sacrifice my entire life to help my family, help my mum when my dad died, I realized that the universe was supporting me incredibly abundantly in the most beautiful and ways I couldn't even imagine. And as a result, abundance has found its way into my life in the most wonderful fashion. And so it's very humbling to realize that this simple principle of wanting to do God's work or wanting to do life's work, when you are trying to help life's business, life will also help you. You could interchange that with saying, if you are willing to help God, God will also help you. And what it means by God is people. What it means by God is nature. What it means by God is maybe animals. Where can you add to something here in this life experience that betters the lives of other people or of other things that will uplift others? Because when you're uplifting others, you're also going to receive as well. It's just part of the same dynamic, energy dynamic, giving and receiving. So if you can become a giver, you will also receive immensely. And the part of life where most people feel unfulfilled is their ability to feel dissatisfied because they're not giving from an open heart and they're not looking to find a type of service or support to help other people in some kind of capacity or some kind of job. If you have a job right now, you've got to be thinking, even if it's not your dream job, when you turn up, just think to yourself, how can I add as much value as I possibly can to this business or this work today? And if you're actually meaning that, it's amazing how little things will unfold and you'll eventually be in the right place at the right time to do something else that will light you up. Because until you make peace with what you have, you'll never have more. And so you've got to accept what you have whilst wanting to add incredible value along the way, because this is contribution at its highest form. And this is the law of giving at its highest form. And I've seen it in my own life play out and have been astonished by how much more abundant I feel just from coming from an open heart of wanting to be of help, wanting to uplift, wanting to make a difference. And the last part of abundance that I just want to talk about today is being able to be good to yourself. If you're able to give a little to yourself, you're going to fill up your own tank. And often when we feel shortage, it's because we're low on energy. But actually, what we are is we're low on thought energy. So we need to shift those thoughts quickly. And one of the best ways to do that is to ask yourself, why am I abundant? Why does abundance flow easily in my life? Why is it safe for me to be abundant? Why is it safe for me to be successful, happy, and healthy? Why is it safe for me to be rich? Why is it safe for me to have more than enough? Because a lot of people have limiting beliefs that actually stop them from really thriving. And somehow, in some way, you may have grown up or bought into that program and you don't even know it. But when you start interrupting it with thoughts like that, which is, why is it safe for me? And why do I give myself permission to thrive and succeed and be abundant? Why is it safe for me to be abundant? Why do I always have more than enough? What you're actually doing is showing your brain another way that will work, rather than the programs that have been running the show the whole time. What we don't realize is that inside of us and inside of you is been a program running the whole time. And if you're experiencing any shortage, it's that those programs have a greater stability in your life because you've been thinking them more. So we need to start thinking differently and then start acting differently to start receiving differently. So start thinking freely by thinking thoughts like, which is, why am I so richly blessed? Why do I deserve the best? Why am I so abundant? Why am I worthy and deserving of all the things that I want? Write them down. Write that down. See it regularly. Say it to yourself regularly. Why does money flow to me freely and easily and comfortably and often? I remember when money didn't flow like easily, and I was like, now it flows so easily now. And it was only because I used to use the word hard. So stop saying the word it's hard and start saying the word easy. Stop making things about not enoughness and start saying plenty and overflow. And remind yourself when you look into nature that even Niagara Falls, like shows like 1 billion gallons. I don't know if it's like every day, but I remember looking at some crazy statistic of like how much overflow of water that Niagara Falls presents itself. That's the same in your ability to allow overflow in your experience. Now, I want you to do this as well, just as a little experiment. When you're eating your food, always leave a little on your plate because it shows that you will have more than enough. And when you're drinking your water, just leave a little bit of water in your drink. Always walk away with just having left a little bit more, because actually in China, what they always say that if you eat in China, and I remember going to a Chinese restaurant over in Asia, they kept on putting more and more food on my plate until I just said I can't eat anymore. And I found that really peculiar, because in the West we were taught eat all your food, eat all your meal, because it's rude if you don't. But in the East they were saying leave a little on your plate for the gods of abundance. And what I realized was that there was more to it than just like the gods. It was about leaving enough to realize that you have had more than enough. So leave a little on your plate and notice how much more abundant you will feel because you've left a little extra over. And when you're using your money in your account, always leave little money in your account, no matter what. Always leave money in your account. And it will get to a point when you have a minimum of 1,000 or a minimum of 5,000 or a minimum of 10,000 or a minimum of 50,000, until you get to a point where your checking account, you just want it to be like, I've got 1 million in there and it's got a high interest account attached to it. That's fine. And then the rest is invested elsewhere. Because the point will be is you get comfortable with your base level. And if you can always leave something in your base, meaning food, water, money in your accounts, these types of energy, you'll notice that you'll feel abundant, because abundance has to be conditioned by you and through you, because it's all about your feeling. Now, I could go on with so much more depth about this subject, but I've just wanted to touch on a few things and a few ideas where you could start to feel more abundant now. And when you feel more abundant, you're going to attract more abundance. And that might be money, for sure. That might be better relationships, and that might be better timing and better health. But you always have to realize it's a feeling, and it all starts with your thinking. And you've got to switch from shortage consciousness to overflow consciousness, more than enough. And always remember, it's your words that will help you initially, because the words create the feeling, and then the feeling emanates through your body. That's what happened to me when I changed my dynamics of my relationships with abundance. And there is more than enough for everybody here. There's more than enough in this world. We are just like a tiny grain of sand on a very, very large beach. And there's more than enough for everybody here. And we just have to remember that you're not really taking anything away from anybody else. You're only going to be adding more to the world with your abundance, because it's also really important to leave on this note. This is always admire rich, happy, and healthy, successful people, because at some level of their being, they've attracted that into their experience, and you will always attract that which you appreciate. And when you complain about somebody who has that, you cannot be that. So be someone who's an appreciator rather than a complainer, and you will be closer to the energy of abundance. This is a real secret tip, and it will really make such a big difference in your life. Appreciate every beautiful car that you see, every beautiful home that you see, every person that's doing really well. Just appreciate them for having attracted that into their experience. And because they've attracted in, you can too, because of your appreciation, because appreciation is a naturally high, abundant energy. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I hope it's inspired you. Abundance is your true nature, but you might have forgotten. And all I'm trying to do is remind you of your natural capacity to thrive. And really, all it takes is just changing your thoughts around, and then changing the actions around that come with it. Just remember, everything is possible to those who believe. And I hope at some level, somewhere in this show, you can believe a little bit more in your abundance, and that it's possible, because if I can do it, you can do it. Anyway, until the next episode, I wish you a wonderful week ahead, and I wish you green lights all the way.